Welcome to the FY26 Consolidated Funding Application ESSA training, provided by the Federal Programs and Oversight Team. As a disclaimer, the state of Tennessee does not currently permit the use of AI tools. We have an agenda today that will cover everything you need to know to be successful with completing FY26 CFA. We'll get started with some updates and reminders and ensuring that you kind of remember when you change things in one area, they need to align to the other areas, such as your parent involvement. If you change the amount on your district set-aside page, you also need to adjust your PPA page. And if you've placed an amount in the budget narratives, that as well, as one example. With budget tags and budget narratives, remember that we do require the use of budget tags on the ESSA side of the CFA. It helps with the purpose of an item. It narrows the focus. It helps you track the money, especially with some new features we have this year. And remember, you only assign one budget tag to a line item. There is an exception with Title IV Part A private school instructional funds. And if you're within the budget, you can use the filtering tool at the top of the page to ensure that your district set-asides match a line. And this is the budget tags within each grant that you all could have within the CFA. And notice this year there is a change from non-publics to private school. And we once again reiterate the importance that in Title IV for the private school, you could have 2 tags per line item. Ensure when you are looking at expenditures that you're going to put within your budget that they are reasonable, that in nature when it comes to the cost, they are necessary for carrying out the intent of the grant, and they are allocable, which they are specifically for that grant and meets the program's intents and objectives. Just make sure that you explain and justify each line item so it is clear what you are paying for, or if it's personnel, the same. And within the budget narratives, when it comes to personnel, we only want position titles, no names, and ensure the position title and FTEs stay consistent throughout the CFA. Such as if you have it in the program details page, make sure it's the same name in personnel details page and within the budget. Here's an example of a line item that doesn't have enough information. It just says supplies and materials. And then a correct way is giving a little bit more detail so we know what the supplies and materials are being purchased for. We have a new page this year. We actually have a few, but the first one is the overview page. This page will help LEAs with the workflow, contacts, and other information to assist the LEA. Contacts page. You need to ensure that this is completed and you have the correct person. And if there are 2 people in the role, ensure that you place them as well. And this page is critical because it helps us with downloading the contacts from this page and sending emails out. And remember, when it comes to the experience, you indicate the years of that specific job position that you have had throughout multiple LEAs, possibly within the state of Tennessee only. With the district assessment information this year on the states, you will be required to have the same information that you have had every year. The only difference is this year, this page will not open until July. The allocation section, this is where you transfer funds from one funding source to the other, or if you utilize Con Admin, you will transfer funds here as well. And there are limits when you are moving money to con admin. With regards to the limits, you have a 20% limit on Title I Part A, Title II Part A, Title I Part C, and Title V Part B. And with regards to Title II, my apologies, with regards to Title III and IV, you have a 2% limit, and you must have a minimum from each program. And this is an example of what the allocation section looks like and how you would transfer the funds over. And this provides a little bit more specificity. With the admin limits, with ESSA, they are automatically calculated if you utilize Con Admin, and they will automatically calculate if you tag them within each grant if you do not utilize Con Admin. And if you do not utilize Con Admin, make sure that you not only tag them in the grant, but you make sure that the budget narratives, that they are easy to note, that it is a true administrative process that has taken place that needs to be paid for. Reiterating the grant contribution limits, and with this one, there is a slight change. With Title III and Title IV, you can take up to 2% direct admin cost as Title III and Title IV. In addition, you can also add the indirect cost without it being part of the 2% for Title III and IV. However, with the others, the 20% must include both any con or direct admin, whichever one you utilize, along with the indirect cost. That has not changed. Those of you that utilize Con Admin, make sure that you use enough detail within your budget narratives so we recognize that it is a true administrative expense. And for those that have direct admin, this is where you will type information in within each specific ESSA grant program details page. And if you are using Con Admin, you simply check a box and you move to the next question. Another new page for all grants within the CFA. And this one is a budget tag summary page. This page will provide a sum of all the budget tags that the LEA utilizes within the budget, and that also includes administrative cost. And you will see the example here below. With regards to Title I Part A, remember on the program detail page to check all the boxes that the LEA is using at the school levels or any district level set-asides of any supplemental services. And if you do any coordination of funds and services, include those as well. With the Title I Part A Personal Details page, you have the option to upload an Excel sheet for the regular school year personnel. We know this assists large urbans that have many FTEs and many different types of staff positions. Although you do not have to be a large urban to do that, but if you choose to utilize the Excel sheet, you do not fill in the personnel details at the bottom except for towards the last column where you provide a total. And then with the within district allocation information on the school eligibility page, this is where you select your poverty source data for the year. Do note that data entered on this page and the school eligibility page with the poverty source data, it can't be changed once the original CFA is approved. There are exceptions in guidance for new and significantly expanding charter schools. When it comes to low-income data sources, ESSA allows a few methods that you can utilize, and you can use a combination of them. We have LEAs that use a combined direct cert along with free and reduced price lunch and Medicaid. We have some that use direct cert. And with Medicaid being included in the direct cert list, LEAs can choose to use Medicaid in the direct cert list or not. However, if you do utilize a combo, ensure all duplicates are removed and ensure you select all the methods if more than one is utilized. So what is required for the upload to demonstrate that you have the correct numbers in the CFA? We need a way to identify students, such as a student ID number. Remember, we do not want any personal identifiable information, such as a name, date of birth, address. The school they attend, that can be a school number or name, the grade level, and the type of eligibility the student is receiving, such as TANF, Medicare Free, and Medicare Reduced. And make sure you differentiate between Medicare Free and Medicare Reduced. Of course, ensuring all duplications are removed. And just as a reminder, if you use any reduced status, even if you're using the direct cert list that has Medicaid Reduced, if you choose to use Medicaid Reduced, you cannot use the multiplier. And LEAs have different ways that they can allocate funds. You can district-wide rank. You can choose grade span ranking. However, if you are fewer than 1,000 students enrolled, those rules do not apply to you. And if you're a single attendance area, the same thing with that. There is a 35% rule that LEAs can select for schools that drop below 40%. When it's determining if they want to utilize district-wide poverty average or if you want to use district-wide grade span average. Remember, any school, regardless if you intend to serve it or not, that becomes 75% or more must be served first. LEAs do have the ability to prioritize their high schools that are 50% or more as the second rank order. And if you have a school that drops below 40%, you can do a school-wide waiver with that. Also, another option, rather than doing a school-wide waiver the first year, if a school drops below 40% after the first year, you can grandfather it in the first year without having to request a waiver. And then if it drops again the following year, a waiver must be requested, and that is good for 2 years. Ensure when you're seeing which schools you want to serve and how much money you have available. Remember that no school can receive less than $100. And when you're looking at having a good school-wide program, making sure that you are giving enough money for the program to be effective and impactful. The intent is not to water down funds, just to make sure more schools can be eligible. And as a reminder, at the bottom of the PPA page in column G, you cannot have less or more than $50 remaining. If an LEA does decide to serve a school that falls below 35%, then a minimum PPA, which is 125% of the average district PPA, must be utilized. And what that means is every school except the last one served has to have that 125% PPA rate. And of course, the last school served cannot be less than $100. And the automatic PPA rate is on both the allocation designation page and the PPA page. And this is an overview of everything we just went over, with selecting the measure of poverty, determining what schools you're going to have, and of course, if you are serving schools 35% or above, it does take away the set-asides. Talking about ranking and what you do after you serve schools that are 75% or less, and then the amount of funding for each school. Students experiencing homelessness. The intent of Title I Part A homeless students is to make sure that the LEA reserves enough funds that students experiencing homelessness can have extra supports. And so what you need to do is look at the needs assessment and what the homeless student population needs and what can be allowable within that set aside. Ensure you include your LEA homeless liaison, since they are the boots on the ground with assisting homeless students. There is a McKinney-Vento needs assessment that has been created for you all to utilize to help streamline this process. Also ensure that your homeless liaisons know how to access these funds. And there are 3 types of funding. There's a required Title I Part A homeless set-aside. Those of you that have applied for the upcoming or are still receiving the McKinney-Vento subgrant, and those that had the Hurricane Emergency Relief subgrant due to flooding. And regardless if you receive McKinney-Vento funds, you are still required to meet the requirements of McKinney-Vento Act with your homeless students. This is a list of allowable expenditures. And these are some authorized uses for the McKinney-Vento subgrants, which also correlates over to your Title I set-aside. And here's another page of examples. And when you are entering your data into the Title I Part A homeless set-aside page, ensure you describe how you came up with the amount and how that was determined, and include any community-based organizations that also assist that population. And of course, describe what transportation services you have available if a student is homeless, and how you make sure that they get that within 1 to 2 days of enrollment. Now, ePlan will pre-populate the number of homeless students coded as H based on your February 2025 data. And this is an example of where you would input some information. Something new this year, the homeless liaison headcount FTE, the McKinney-Vento education, it does allow for you to have a liaison that carries out the duties and requirements under the McKinney-Vento Act. And we as a department are required to report the number of full-time equivalent LEA homeless liaisons and any staff that is tasked with carrying out the duties of the liaison and any LEA requirements under the McKinney-Vento Act. And this position can be supported through the Title I Part A set-asides or other funding with regards to the homeless liaison. So the FTE count is not only state and local, it's federal. So any employees you have, regardless of their funding source, that assist with the homeless students. And here is an example of what the page will look like. And any other funding sources that you use to coordinate. And here are some resources. Student foster care. There haven't been any changes this year. Just make sure you have the correct foster care point of contact, even if you do not have any foster students at the moment. You will enter the total number of students in foster care within this page and the total number of best interest determination meetings that you have. We do understand that the CFA is completed prior to the conclusion of the school year, but just what you have completed at the time of the CFA completion. And here's an example of where you place that. And the foster care transportation agreement is still something you upload. You should have this in previous CFAs. If it does not need to be changed, you simply keep uploading the same one. You do not have to create a new agreement. And here are some resources to assist with foster students. District set-asides, the intent of those are to benefit all the Title I schools across the LEA. Of course, the exception to that, and the only exception, is the homeless set-aside. And the purpose of these is the LEA sees some things that are happening across all the Title I schools, so they hold it at the LEA level, so the cost does not go down to the school level. There are a few required set-asides. Your students experiencing homelessness, for LEAs that receive over $500,000, the required parent and family engagement, and if an LEA has a private school that chooses and qualifies for Title I funding, that is a set-aside as well. There are other allowable set-asides. And remember, with the parent and family engagement, LEAs must distribute 90% of their set aside for the required to the Title I schools, and 10% can be held at the LEA level. There are a couple questions on both the public parent and family engagement and private. Make sure you answer those clearly to ensure that you are having a robust parent and family engagement program. And then with related documents, these are at the very end. You can either upload these at their specific page, but they all also come over to this Title I Part A related documents page as well. With Title I Part A, there's no changes from last year. Just remember to update your need assessments and all MOUs. And if you need further assistance, please contact Leslie Watson. Then Title I Part C Migrant. When it comes to the program details page, there are some auto-populated numbers to assist you. And you will also answer some questions such as how you will provide intent support to your priority for service students to ensure they are getting extra support. Of course, you will be asked questions regarding the occupational survey and the individual needs assessment, along with your migrant data management and the Parent Advisory Council. Also, you will indicate your areas of spending your funds as you designate within the budget if they are regular school year or summer services. And remember, you are supposed to have both instructional and supplemental support services within your budget. And here's some more information regarding the program details page. And of course, if you have anyone being paid out of Title I Part C funds, you do upload a copy of the of their job description. And here are some resources. Title I Part. Once again, no changes, just a reminder to update the needs assessment and the MOU. And then if you need any assistance or support, contact Leslie Watson. Juvenile justice. Ensure in the LEA address book that you have this contact and that they know that they are the contact. And even if you do not have a high school, all LEAs are required to have a juvenile justice point of contact. Title II Part A. Just a few program reminders of ensuring you're answering the questions with the eligible expenditures and how those are identified needs, and making sure that you do the meaningful consultation with the stakeholders through your Informed Tennessee method and explaining that process. And here are a few examples of where Title II funds can be used to support. Notice this is school-based staff, such as your teachers, principals, any other leaders within the school, and paraprofessionals. And something to remember when it comes to professional development is these are not just one-day standalone workshops, that they are intensive, they are collaborative, they're job embedded, they're data driven, and they're classroom focused, and they last throughout the school year. And if you want to upload your PD plan, you can. And some resources for Title II. English learner requirements. On the program details page, the English learner requirements one, all LEAs must complete this page and answer all the questions regarding staffing, identification, equitable access, and any language instruction that the LEA is using to support English language learners. Of course, the staff to child ratio needs to be 1 to 35 or less, and it will be based on the prior year's October 1st count. You will have, you will be able to answer questions if it does go past 135. Remember, when it comes to Title III, not only do you have to supplement state and local funds, you have to supplement federal funds when it comes to that. So here are some great resources of making sure you aren't supplanting, especially with what is required with translation and interpretation, because there are requirements that federal funding cannot be used for most instances of translation and interpretation, but you can click on the links for a little bit more information on that. And just a reminder, only active ELs and immigrant students may be served under Title III, and those who have exited may not. However, there is the caveat, if they're immigrant, they may continue to be served. The consortia budget review, remember to select the LEA that participated in the consortium in the FY25. You check the box to identify who that was for the previous year. And if you were not a Title III consortia or consortia lead, then you just simply click NA. With the program details page specifically for Title III, this is everyone who accepts Title III funds. Ensuring that everything is supplemental, you describe what your use of funds were in the budget and add a little bit more detail to this page. And of course, you will discuss the annual Title III self-assessment when it comes to the impact of Title III activities. And remember, if you do accept Title III funds, you must provide and implement parent and family and community engagement activities. And this is where you would select that on the program details page. And here's a list of resources. With Title Part A, this is only for standalone and consortia budgets to complete this, for the leads, consortia leads. Title Part A, remember there are 3 areas: the well-rounded, safe and healthy, and effective use of technology that encompasses this grant. And the LEAs, during their needs assessment, can distribute to the schools based on the greatest need, highest poverty, if they have any school designation, or they are persistently dangerous school. Remember on the program details page to answer your process in Inform Tennessee and how that assisted with what the needs assessment had on what they are doing to then utilize the Title IV funds. And on the program detail page, remember there are 4 boxes within each area that you must answer. If you are LEA receiving $30,000 or more, of course you must conduct a needs assessment as previously mentioned, and you have to spend 20% on both well-rounded and safe and healthy. Then a portion, which is 1% or more, can be used on the effective use of technology focus area. And within that, no more of that percentage can be on, 15% can be on infrastructure. And do know private schools' infrastructure counts towards that amount. There is a special rule in ESSA on that 15% infrastructure amount that is restricted to what you are spending on the effective use of technology. Devices, equipment, software applications, things of that do count towards the 15% of what you are spending in the effective use of technology area. The other 85% is for professional learning. course, this is an area where you will identify the budget tag. And once again, just to reiterate, remember the private schools will have 2 budget tags. And this helps the LEAs track spending, and it does auto-populate over to the program details page, the amount. And there are assurances that you must check within Title IV, making sure you agree to these, so ensure you read these thoroughly. And if once carryover comes in, remember that you are needing to track your expenditures and ensure you have the correct process and internal control in place of what was unspent, and then you add that to from the prior fiscal year to the current year. And we have a area if you want to upload any related documents. Here are your resources. Title V, Part B, Subpart 2. There are no changes, and for those that do receive this grant, you are allowed to utilize the funding from this source, and you can use it as if it's Title I Part A, Title II Part A, Title III Part A, Title IV Part A, or parent and family engagement that goes above and beyond Title I. And remember, just like Title III, these funds must be used to supplement, not supplant, not only state and local, but also federal funds. And you have the ability to upload any supporting documents you want. Here's a list of resources. For those of you that use size reduction, nothing has changed this year. You simply click the information or do the drop-down box and enter the information. And of course, you will have questions to answer on ensuring that you are tracking this and that it is truly a good use of funds, and you have researched it and you're tracking your data and you're seeing that these teachers that have become class size reduction are truly effective in the classroom. And this is just a little bit more information. Do remember at the beginning, when you're putting the data in, you're doing projected data, but then after September, you need to add the actual state and local student to teacher ratio. Also, by October 1st of each year, you need to have your director of schools sign on the letterhead that the teacher meets the qualifications for licensing, is teaching in the field of discipline on the certificate of the teacher, and is not teaching on a waiver, and all teachers must be a level 3 or above. Equitable services for private schools. The summary of the results of the non-public survey will be auto-populated into here. Do note with Title I, that is completed on the school eligibility page. And when it comes to Title I Part A, you serve the private school students who are low income and within LEA Title I attendance areas. And Title I Part C, just having a process to document migratory students that are enrolled at the private school within the LEA boundaries. And with Title II, that's just the K-12 enrollment of private schools within the LEA boundaries. And then Title III, that is the number of K-12 ELs enrolled at private schools within the boundaries, and you and the private school will need to get together on what determines if the student does qualify for EL services. And then with Title IV, that's just the total number of private school students within the LEA boundaries. There is a program details page. Ensure you answer everything thoroughly. And if you did not have any private schools that participated, or you do not have any private schools, you can simply click NA for the programs that are not applicable to you. And you have two options when you submit the CFA for the first time. You can do the Affirmation of Meaningful Private School Consultation, or if you have had time to complete the final agreement, you can do the combined Affirmation of Meaningful Private School Consultation along with the final agreement. Do note that if you are not able to get the final agreement finalized in time, you have to upload that by September 15th, 2025 to the LEA document library. And of course, there are resources. And two great resources to utilize are the Federal Spending Handbook, and that goes over specific items, especially towards the back, that can be paid for with each specific grant as long as it ties to your needs assessment. And our Consolidated Funding Application, the guide, and that is the how. As you are completing your CFA, you can also be going through this document to assist you with little things you might have forgotten since you have completed it last year. And we already have resources in the FY26 area within TDOE, resources within ePlan. And this is the divisional coordinator map on who you need to contact for any CFA assistance with the completion of the CFA. This is our finance consultant district map. And these are other ESSA points of contact who also help review the CFA at the second level. As you know, as of March 1st, the CFA opened. It is tentatively due May the 1st, and by July the 1st, all CFAs must be approved by the department. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Here is your ability to share feedback. And finally, if you know of any fraud, waste, or abuse, here's the information you can use with the phone number and website. And this completes our presentation.